All right, welcome to the Gloves Are Off Overtime Edition. I'm Moses Woldu, and I'm pleased to be joined by these two fine gentlemen. Greg Buchanan, my co-host.
Moses.
And Matt Choumont here with New Cap Sports.
How you doing?
Not too bad. Of course, we didn't get to all the questions. I know we kind of left off on baseball with the Blue Jays, and we'll continue with baseball, but this time involving maybe some changes. Although we know baseball, at least the executives, are very slow when it comes to change. They just added an instant replay begrudgingly. You look at some of the things that kind of been implemented throughout the years, wild card, extra teams. They've taken time, but people warmed up to it. How about 7 innings baseball rather than 9 innings baseball? Of course, we live in a world, Bucky, I know you're shaking your head, but we live in a world where the attention spans of a lot of people is like a gnat. It just moves from one end to the other very quickly. No. Exactly. So you tell me, Bucky, why, and MLB exec actually brought this up. Do you see this as being the right move?
No. Baseball is a very traditional kind of sport. I know, I understand, I'm a baseball fan, and trying to tell people that it's a great game. I love the game. I'm a hockey guy, but when it comes down to it, I'd much rather sit at a ballpark, eat a hot dog and a drink, and watch a ball game. And if it's 3 hours long, it's 3 hours long. I love it because there's so many different things in a game that I get excited about. But at the same time, if you're a non-baseball fan, to sit in front of your TV, sit at the ballpark, and watch a game for 3 hours can be very boring for you. I know I've been to major league ballparks, and there's season ticket owners, that a lady sitting beside me in Minneapolis knitting during the whole game, another one reading his book during the whole game, and just looking up occasionally because it was a bit of a social outing for them. But baseball's not for everybody, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get the baseball, maybe we cut it down to 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
I think that's been the issue, right, Bucky? What about you, Matt?
I'm going to just add on to it. I completely agree. It should be 9 innings because you don't get the 7th inning stretch if you do that. Yeah. You don't get God Bless America. We all need that, right?
Oh, yeah, of course.
But especially in Toronto, ask Carlos.
And you're paying X amount of money for tickets, right? So you want to get your money's worth. So you got to stick around for 9 innings, right? 7's just too short for me.
So you're saying 9 innings the way to go. They could change other things. Maybe a time clock for pitchers.
Oh, what do you mean? When runners are on base, they only have 20 seconds to reload and give.
Yeah,
so
but I mean, but at that point, but it's not one of those rules that's obviously.
It's a 3-hour game.
Like the reason why baseball has this romantic.
Have you watched the Yankees and Red Sox? Those things.
But the reason why baseball has this romantic view of it is if you go to the ballpark and you're sitting in the ballpark in 2014 and you look out, it's the same game from 2014 to 2054. Or to 1954.
You're thinking in the future.
But 1954, when you had Joe DiMaggio and all those guys, it's the same game that when Joe was playing, that Mickey Mantle was playing, that now guys, the stars of today are playing. And that's the great thing about baseball. The game has not changed. So why do we have to reinvent this thing that has been working very fine since the early 1900s?
Okay, let's move on to football now. A game that's been around, but most recently a lot of talk about thuggery has been on the mind. Of course, Richard Sherman, he grew up in Compton. He grew up in that environment, ended up being an upstanding citizen. We all agree. This man's is a brilliant man on and off the field. Then you look at DeSean Jackson, who some might say is a little arrogant, a little cocky, from the same area. Maybe not necessarily at the same degree, didn't go to Stanford, but is from the same area and made himself out to this player. But there are talks, the reason why he left Philly was, of course, his affiliation with gangs or the people he keeps. Richard Sherman said, that's not right. I don't think you should necessarily judge a guy by that because what do you do, especially in that type of situation? And he thought it was actually foolish of Philadelphia to get rid of him. If it was money reason, just say it's money. But he's saying, look, guys, this is just ridiculous. I think you should have been given a fair shot. Do you agree with what Richard Sherman is saying?
Absolutely.
Defending
well, yeah,
DeSean Jackson.
Because nothing with ties like that has come out. Like Jackson, you know, he's cocky and arrogant, but you don't hear anything about him shooting someone or
he didn't shoot himself in the leg. He didn't take a gun to a
yeah,
club.
Exactly. Like, he hasn't done anything like that. So I don't think, you know, them saying gang related, that's why we didn't sign him or cut him. That I think it's more dollar bills. I think is the issue.
The only thing there is moral clauses in contracts of these professional athletes. They have to be aware of the surroundings. If you're in a surrounding in a house that has weapons, a house that has drugs, you shouldn't be there.
And I don't think he's necessarily saying that, but in a situation like this, you can't abandon your friends just because you're you all of a sudden are successful and make a lot of money, you can't say, "Oh, I'm sorry, Greg, I don't know you."
Right,
Even
but-
though you might necessarily be doing some shady dealings, doesn't necessarily mean I can't step away from you, because in that culture, you can't do that.
But if your friends are breaking the law, you don't hang out with those friends. I'm sorry, they're your friends, your childhood friends and everything, but if they're breaking the law and they're known offenders to the police, don't be there. Simple as that. I'm sorry, but that's the way it has to be.
Okay, very quickly, guys. Jonas Valanciunas, center for the Toronto Raptors, got caught with a DUI. Is this an issue or non-issue?
If they're losing, it's an issue. But considering what the Raptors are doing this year, it's just, you learn your lesson, don't do it again. Let's move
Let's get
forward.
it straight. We're not talking about having a DUI being the issue. We're just saying a young kid making a mistake,
Yeah.
being punished correctly by the law.
Yeah, you know what? And that's the thing about professional sports. You get a DOI, you get pulled over for impaired driving, not a big story. They're not going to report it at New Camp. Well, let's hope not. But but the thing is, if you're a professional athlete, guess what? It's right there.
Yeah.
So, and that's a tough thing.
In this case, a non-issue?
No.
I think it's a non-issue.
All right,
He
guys.
realized he made a mistake.
But if they're losing, I think it'd
Yeah.
be a bigger issue.
Or if he's been acting out more
Yeah.
than once.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you very much for joining me on the set for the OT edition, and thank you as well. You can tune in every Tuesday night at 7:30 CITL to watch the show, and come back on here to watch any of the questions that we didn't answer and us keep joking around like we normally do. In the meantime, we will see you in 7 days.